All right, we're going to start with the Edo period now. This period goes from 1603 or 1615, kind of depending on how you mark it, to 1868. This is a period ruled by the Tokugawa shogunate. It was a time of peace and prosperity, and the new capital is Edo, which is present-day Tokyo. The Edo period is marked by a policy of sakoku, which means chained country. Japan at this time was almost completely cut off from the outside until about 1850. All foreign trade was banned, the practice of Christianity was banned, and we see a four-tiered social hierarchy of samurai, peasant farmer, artisans, and merchants. This actually contradicted the actual wealth owned by the people. Merchants actually had the most wealth, but were considered the lowest on this kind of antiquated social hierarchy. Samurai had really lost their work due to the lack of wars at this time, and city dwellers of the artisan and merchant classes, they really thrived in this period. Remember that there are going to be some things that we skip here, just to kind of keep things simple and moving along. The 8-planked bridge from Ogata Korin is in your textbook, I believe. And so we're going to move on to woodblock prints. And what I'm showing you are 3 different prints that are actually in CSU's Gregory Alucar Museum of Art. We would have seen these prints in person. We just have to get over that now. But these are all examples of what are called UkiyoE prints. UkiyoE. Ukiyo-e were Japanese woodblock prints that were widely circulated and affordable at this time. And they were called, ukiyo-e means pictures of the floating world. The subjects that we see are kind of everyday scenes. There are scenes of historical dramas, romances, sumo wrestlers, kabuki theater. Here we have just a kind of image of fish, an evening over a river with a bridge. These were works that were widely available, and they were created by a series of individuals involved in the process. The main artist who created the image was called an ishi. There was then a carver called a horishi, the person who actually did the printing. And as you can see with color, there would be different series that would be inked in different ways and then imprinted onto one sheet to create the different colors. The printer is called a surishi. And then the publisher who produced these images. The publisher controlled the entire production and distribution and was the main person who profited. If we look at the form of these works together, what we see are flattened space, kind of flattened, kind of monochromatic panes of color, and interesting perspectives. Perhaps the most famous ukiyo-e print is Katsushika Hokusai's The Great Wave. This was published in a series of 36 views of Mount Fuji. And here, if you look, I mean, the wave really is the dominant element here in the composition. And we see, this huge mountain in the back that is completely dwarfed by this massive wave here. This is, as I said, it's 36 views of Japan's tallest mountain that was beloved by the people of Edo. And we see here, this image shows us 3 boats packed with human figures sailing from right to left, following that traditional Japanese order of narration going from right to left. And so we see 1, 2, 3 boats here. that are about to collide with this massive wave assaulting them that's coming from the opposite direction, from the left. It also appears that this wave is about to kind of crash onto Mount Fuji and wipe out this mountain entirely. There's this kind of vigorous dynamism and energy in this work that's enhanced by the bold geometricization of natural forms, the kind of destabilizing swirling curves of the wave, the solid pyramidal shape of the mountain. Some read this as an allegory of a life filled with struggles. Others attempt to see this print as a socio-political metaphor that alludes to the drastic change that's about to come to Japanese society. A few decades after this work was completed in 1850, Commodore Perry forces open the ports of Japan, and Japan is a closed country no more. In 1868, at the end of the Edo period, we see the Meiji Restoration. It overthrows the Tokugawa shogunate, and the feudal rule of the samurai class that had lasted for over 650 years was now gone, and a new government under a restored emperor came to be. And Japan aimed to reinvent itself as a modern nation state. One of the ways it did that was we see artists assimilating Western artistic styles and techniques. And we see that in this work here, that is an example of Nihonga, which is, this is an example of yoga, Y-O-G-A, which is the Western style painting of the Meiji period. Now, when we get to the 19th century in Europe, we will see the kind of pastel colors here, the loose brushwork. This really reflects an influence of Impressionism and Post-Impressionism on the Japanese yoga painters. They stood in contrast to the Nihonga school. The Nihonga painters sought a more Japanese style tradition, using ink and color on paper, using a more vertical format instead of the more horizontal format of Western European canvases. And this conflict between a kind of more Western perspective versus a more native Japanese perspective, this really reflected the search for a new modern national identity. What does it mean to be Japanese? And this conflict, still persists in Japan today. I have for the discussion for week 12 on the kimono and the construction of gendered and cultural identities, I have these guiding questions for you on the discussion board on Canvas. Also too, I have this photograph on the right of the Japanese coming of age ceremony. You're going to learn about kimono and gendered identity in Japan and this continuing conflict between looking inward, looking to what is uniquely Japanese, and also looking to the West. All right, let's see here. Let's briefly look at the Showa period to end this unit, but I am going to stop this video for now, and I'll pick that up in a third video.